So, as we do every Saturday morning, we will recite the Sri Brahma Samhita. And we'll recite it in Sanskrit in unison, and then we'll read the English. Each person will read five English verses, translation verses. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. So shall we just start? Do you prefer to start with the Sanskrit or the English? All right, let's just do the Sanskrit first. It's a very purifying vibration. This song was when the deities were opened this morning. Several verses from this song were being sung in the recording. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the Supreme Lord, the original person. So this takes a little long, bear with us, but it's a meditation. These mantras are spiritual sounds that have been laid out from very ancient times, and they have a powerful way of working on our heart and turning us to Krishna. So let's try to recite in unison and not go too fast. Ishvarat Parama Krishnaha Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarvakarana Karanam Sahasra Patra Kamalang Gokulakyang Mahatpadam Tat Karnikaram Tad Tama Tad Anantangsha Samphavam Karnikarang Mahadyantrang Shatkonang Vajrakilikam Shadanga Shatpati Sthanam Prakritya Purushena Cha Premananda Mahananda Rasena Vasthitang Hiyat Jyoti Rupena Manuna Kama Bijena Sangatam Tat Kinjalkang Tadangshanang Tat Patrani Shriyamapi Chaturasrang Tat Paritaha Shvetadvip Akyam Adbhutam Chaturasrang Chaturmurtesh Chaturdhama Chatushkritam Chaturbhik Purushartaischa Chaturbhir Hetubhir Vritam Shulayar Dashabhiranadham Urdvadho Dikvidikshwapi Ashtabhir Nidhibhir Jushtam Ashtabhik Siddhibhistatha Manu Rupaischa Dashabhir Dikpalaik Parito Vritam Shamair Gauraischa Raktaischa Shuklaischa Parshadarshabhahi Shobhitang Shaktibhistabhir Adbhutabhik Samantataha Evang Jyotirmayo Devaha Sad Anandak Paratparaha Atma Ramasya Tasyasti Prakrityana Samagamaha Mayaya Ramamanasya Naviyogastayasaha Atmana Ramaya Reme Tyaktakalang Sisrikshaya Nitik Sarama Devi Tatpriya Tadvashang Tada Tallingang Bhagavan Shambhur Jyoti Rupak Sanatanaha Ya Yonihi Sapara Shaktihi Kamo Bijang Mahadtarehe Linga Yonyatmika Jata Ima Maheshwari Prajaha Shaktiman Purushak Soyang Linga Rupi Maheshwaraha Tasmin Avirabhu Linge Mahavishnur Jagatpatihi Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasrakshak Sahasrapat Sahasra Bahur Vishvatma Sahasrangshak Sahasrasuhu Narayanaksa Bhagavan Apastasmat Sanatanat Avirasit Karanarno Nidhik Sankarshanatmakaha Yoga Nidrangatas Tasmin Sahasrangshak Swayang Mahan Tad Roma Bila Jaleshu Bijang Sankarshanasya Cha Haimanyandani Jatani Mahabhutavritani Tu Pratyandam Evam Ekangshad Vishati Swayam Sahasramurdha Vishvatma Mahavishnu Sanatanaha Vamangada Srijat Vishnung Dakshinangat Prajapatim Jyotirlingamayang Shambhung Kurchadeshad Avasrijat Ahankaratmakang Vishvang Tasmade Tadvyajayata Atatais Tribidhir Vaishayar Lilam Udvahatakila Yoga Nidra Bhagavati Tasya Shri Riva Sangata Sishrikshayang Tato Nabhes Tasya Padmang Vaniryayo Tannalam Heman Nalinang Brahmano Lokamadbhutam Tatvani Purvarudhani Karanani Parasparam Samavaya Prayogachcha Vibhinnani Pritak Pritak Chichaktya Sajjamanota Bhagavanadi Purushaha Yojayan Mayaya Devo Yoga Nidrama Kalpayat Yojayitva Tutani Eva Pravivesha Swayang Guham Guhang Pravishte Tasmingstu Jivatma Pratipudyate Sanityo Nitya Sambandhak Prakritischa Prarayavasa Evang Sarvatma Sambandhang Nabhyang Padmang Harer Abhut Tatra Brahma Bhavad Bhuyash Chaturvedi Chaturmukhaha Sanjato Bhagavat Shaktya Tatkalang Kila Choditaha Sisrikshayang Mating Chakre Purva Sanskara Sanskritaha Tadarsha Kevalang Dvantam Nanyat Kim Api Sarvataha Uvacha Purutas Tasmai Tasya Divya Saraswati Kama Krishnaya Govinda Hey Gopi Jana Ityapi Vallabhaya Priya Vahner Mantrang Te Dasyati Priyam Tapastvam Tapa Etena Tava Siddhir Bhavishyati Atatepe Sasuchirang Prinan Govindam Avyayam Shweta Dvipa Pating Krishnam Golokastang Parat Param Prakritya Gunu Rupinya Rupinya Paryupasitam Sahasra Dala Sampanne Koti Kinjal Kabringhite Bhumischintamanis Tatra Karnikare Mahasane Samasinang Chidanandang Jyoti Rupang Sanatanam Shabda Brahma Mayang Venum Vadayantam Mukhambuje Vilasini Ganavritang Svaiksvair Angshayar Abhishtutam Ata Venu Ninadasya Traimurti Mayikatihi Spuranti Praviveshashu Mukhabjani Swayang Bhuvaha Gayatring Gayatas Tasmad Adhikatya Sarojajaha Sanskritaschari Gununa Dvijatam Agamattataha Traya Prabudho Tavidhir Vigyata Tattvasagaraha Tushtava Veda Sarena Stotrena Nena Keshavam Chintamani Prakara Sadma Shukalpa Vriksha Lakshavriteshu Surabhirabhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasang Brahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami Venum Kwanantam Aravinda Dalaya Taksham Barhavatang Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamalya Vangshi Ratnangadang Pranaya Keli Kalavilasam Shyamang Tribhanga Lalitang Nyata Prakashang Govindamadi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritti Manti Pashyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyang Purana Purushang Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhaktau Govindamadi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami Pantastu koti shatavatsara sampragamyo vayoratapi manaso munipungavanam sopyasti yat prapadasimya vachintya tattve govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Eko pyasaura chayatung jagaranda koting yat shaktirasti jagaranda chayayadantaha Andantarastha paramanu chayantarastham govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Yadbhava bhavitadhiyo manujastataiva samprapya rupa mahimasanayana bhushaha Suktaryameva nigama pratitaikstuvanti govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabhis tabhirya eva nijarupataya kalabhihi Goloka eva nivasatyakilatma bhuto govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Premanjanat churita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yang shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami. Ramadi murti shukalani amena tishtan nanavataram akarod bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna swayang samabhavat paramak pumanyo govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti koti shvashesha vasudhari vibhuti bhinnam tad brahma nishkalam anantamashesha bhutam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Yahi yasya jagad anda shatani sute traigunya tad vishaya veda vitaya mana Sattvaavalambi parasatvang vishuddha sattvang govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasatmataya manaksu yak praninang pratipalan smaratam upetya Lilayatena bhuvanani jayatya jasram govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Goloka namni nijadhamni tale chatasya devi mahesha haridhama suteshu teshu te te prabhava nichaya vihitaschayena govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Shrishti sthiti pralaya sadhana shakti reka chayeva yasya bhuvanani vibharti durga Icchanurupam apiyasya chacheshtate sa govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Kshirang yatadadhi vikara vashesha yogat sanjayate nahitatak pratak asti hetoho yaksham bhutam apitata samupaiti karyad govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Diparchireva hidashantaram abhyupetya dipayate vivrita hetu samana dharma yastadrigeva hi cha vishnutaya vibhati govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Yakaranarna vajale bhajati sma yoga nidramananta jagadanda saroma kupaha Adhara shaktim avalambya parang swamurting govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Yasyaika nishvasita kalamathavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanataha Vishnur mahansa ihayasya kala vishesho govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Bhasvanyatashma sakaleshu nijeshu tejak swiyankiyat pakatayat tapitad vadatra Brahmaya esha jagadanda vidhana karta govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Yat pada pallava yugang vinidhaya kumbha dvandve pranama samaye saganadhi rajaha vignan vihantum alamasya jagat jagasya govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Agnirmahi gaganamambu maruddishascha kalastathatma manasiti jagatrayani yasmad bhavanti vibhavanti vishanti yangcha govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Yachchakshuresha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramurti rashesha tejaha yasya gyaya brahmati sanghbrita kala chakro govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Dharmo tapapa nichayak shrutayasta pangsi brahmadi kita pakatavadayascha jivaha yaddatta matra vibhava prakata prabhava govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Yastvindra gopa matavendra mahosva karma bandhanu rupa palabhajana matanoti karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajang govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Yang krodha kama sahaja pranayadi bhiti vatsalya moha guru gaurava sevya bhavahi sanchintya tasya sadrishing tanamapurete govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. Shriya kantaha kantaha parama purusha kalpataravo druma bhumischintamani ganamayi toyamamritam kathaganang natyang gamanam api vangshi priya sakhi chidanandang jyotik paramapi tadaspadyam api cha sayatra kshirabdhi sravati surabhi bhaschatsumahan nimesharthakyo vavrajati nahi yatrapi samayaha bhaje shvetatwipam tamaham iha golokam itiyam vidantaste santakshiti viralachara katapaye ato vacha mahavishnur bhagavantang prajapatim brahman mahatva vijnane prajasarge chachenmatihi pancha shlokim imang vidyang vatsadattang nibodhame prabudhe jnana bhaktibhyam atmanyananda chinmayi udeti anutama bhaktir bhagavat prema lakshana pramana istat sadachara istat abhyasaya nirantaram bodhayan atmanatmanam bhaktim apyutamang labhed yasyak shreyas karang nasti yaya nirvritamapnuyat ya sadhayati mameva bhakting tameva sadhayet dharmananyan parityaja mamekang bhaja vishvasan yadrishi yadrishi shraddha siddhir bhavati tadrishi kurvan nirantarang karma lokoyam anuvartate tenaiva karmana dhyayan mang parang bhaktimichati ahang hi vishvasya characharasya bijang pradhanam prakritik pumangscha maya hitam teja idang bibharshi vidhe vidhehi tvamato jaganti ishvarak parama krishnaha satchidananda vigraha anadir adir govindaha sarva karana karanam iti shri Brahma Samhita sampurnam hari om. So now that we've invoked auspiciousness by chanting the actual Sanskrit sounds that were set down many years ago by Lord Brahma himself in his prayers to Krishna, we'll just each of us in turn will read 5 verses of the English translation. So we need to get our microphones out. I guess there's one there. I can read the first 5 if you don't mind. Excuse me, I've got some allergies right now. I think there's a lot of pollen in the air and stuff. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. The spiritual place of transcendental pastimes of Krishna is portrayed in the 2nd verse. The super excellent station of Krishna, which is known as Gokula, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus, sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect, the whirl of the leaves being the actual abode of Krishna. The whirl of that transcendental lotus is the realm wherein dwells Krishna. It is a hexagonal figure, the abode of the indwelling, predominated and predominating aspect of the Absolute. Like a diamond, the central supporting figure of self-luminous Krishna stands as the transcendental source of all potencies. The holy name, consisting of 18 transcendental letters, is manifested in a hexagonal figure with 6-fold divisions. The whirl of that eternal realm Gokula is the hexagonal abode of Krishna. Its petals are the abodes of gopis, who are part and parcel of Krishna, to whom they are most lovingly devoted and are similar in essence. The petals shine beautifully like so many walls. The extended leaves of that lotus are the garden-like Dhamma, that is, spiritual abode of Sri Radhika, the most beloved of Krishna. The surrounding external plane of Gokula is described in this verse. There is a mysterious quadrangular place named Shwetadweep, surrounding the outskirts of Gokul. Shwetadweep is divided into 4 parts on all sides. The abode of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are separately located in each of these 4 parts. These 4 divided abodes are enveloped by the 4-fold human requirements, such as piety, wealth, passion, and liberation, as also by the 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, which deal with the mantra and which are the bases of achievements of the 4-fold mundane requirements. 10 tridents are fixed in the 10 directions, including the zenith and nadir. The 8 directions are decorated with the 8 jewels of Mahapadma, Padma, Shankha, Makara, Kachapa, Mukunda, Kunda, and Nila. There are 10 protectors, Dikpalas, of the 10 directions in the form of mantra. The associates of the hues of blue, yellow, red, and white, and the extraordinary potencies bearing the names of Vimala, etc., shine on all sides. Yes, next 5.
The Lord of Gokula is the transcendental supreme Godhead, the own self of eternal ecstasies. He is the superior of all superiors and is busily engaged in the enjoyments of the transcendental realm and has no association with his mundane potency. Krishna never consorts with his illusionary energy. Still, her connection is not entirely cut off from the absolute truth. When he intends to create the material world, the amorous pastime in which he engages by consorting with his own spiritual chit potency, Rama, by casting his glance at the deluding energy in the shape of sending his time energy, is an auxiliary activity. The secondary process of association with Maya is described. Rama Devi, the spiritual chit potency, beloved consort of the Supreme Lord, is the regulatrix of all entities. The divine plenary portion of Krishna creates the mundane world. At creation, there appears a divine halo of the nature of his own subjective portion, Swamsa. This halo is divine Sambhu, the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. This halo is the dim twilight reflection of the supreme eternal effulgence. This masculine symbol is the subjective portion of divinity who functions as progenitor of the mundane world, subject to supreme regulatrix, niyati. The conceiving potency in regard to mundane creation makes her appearance out of the supreme regulatrix. She is Maya, the limited, non-absolute, apara, potency, the symbol of mundane feminine productivity. The intercourse of these two brings forth the faculty of perverted cognition, the reflection of the seed of the procreative desire of the Supreme Lord. All offering of the consort of the great Lord Mahashwar of this mundane world are of the nature of the embodiment of the mundane masculine and feminine generative organs. The person embodying the material causal principle is the great Lord of this mundane world, Maheshwara Sambhu, in the form of the male generating organ, is joined to his female consort, the limited energy Maya, as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him by his subjective portion in the form of his glands.
The Lord of the mundane world, Mahavishnu, possesses thousands of heads, eyes, hands. He is the source of thousands of avatars in his thousands of subjective portions. He is the creator of thousands of individual souls. The same Mahavishnu is spoken by the name of Narayana in this mundane world. From that eternal person has sprung the vast expansion of water of the spiritual causal ocean. The subjective portion of Sankarshana, who abides in Paravyoma, the above Supreme Purusha, with thousands of subjective portions, reposes in the state of divine sleep, Yoga Nidra, in the waters of the spiritual causal ocean. The spiritual seeds of Sankarshana, existing in the pores of skin of Mahavishnu, are born as so many golden sperms. These sperms are covered with 5 great elements. The same Mahavishnu entered into each universe as his own separate subjective portions. The divine portions that enter into each universe are possessed of his majestic extension, that is, they are the eternal universal soul Mahavishnu, possessing thousands of heads. The same Mahavishnu created Vishnu from his left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb, and from the space between his 2 eyebrows, Shambhu, the divine masculine manifested halo. The function of Shambhu in relation to Jivas is that this universe enshrining the mundane, egotistic principle has originated from Shambhu.
Thereupon, the same great personal Godhead, assuming the 3-fold forms of Vishnu, Prajapati, and Sambhu, entering into the mundane universe, plays the pastimes of preservation, creation, and destruction of this world. This pastime is contained in the mundane world. Hence, it being perverted, the Supreme Lord, identical with Mahavishnu, prefers to consort with the goddess Yoga Nidra, the constituent of his own spiritual chit potency, full of ecstatic trance, of eternal bliss, appertaining to his own divine personality. When Vishnu, lying in the ocean of milk, wills to create this universe, a golden lotus springs from his navel pit. The golden lotus with its stem is the abode of Brahma, representing Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. Before their conglomeration, the primary elements in their nascent state remained originally separate entities. Non-application of the conglomerating process is the cause of their separate existence. Divine Mahavishnu, primal Godhead, through association with his own spiritual chit potency, moved Maya, and by the application of the conglomerating principle, created those different entities in their state of cooperation. And after that, he himself consorted with Yoga Nidra by way of his eternal dalliance with his spiritual chit potency. By conglomerating all those separate entities, he manifested the innumerable mundane universes and himself entered into the inmost recess of every extended conglomerate, Virad Vigraha. At that time, those jivas who had lain dormant during the cataclysm were awakened.
The same jiva is eternal, and it is for eternity and without a beginning joined to the Supreme Lord by the tie of an eternal kinship. He is transcendental spiritual potency. The divine lotus, which springs from the navel pit of Vishnu, is in every way related by the spiritual tie with all souls and is the origin of four-faced Brahma versed in the four Vedas. On coming out of the lotus, Brahma, being guided by the divine potency, turned his mind to the act of creation under the impulse of previous impressions, but he could see nothing but darkness in every direction. Then the goddess of learning, Sarasvati, the divine consort of the Supreme Lord, said thus to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions, "O Brahma, this mantra viz," oh boy, Klim, Krishnaya, Govindaya, Gopijana, Vallabhaya, Svalha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desire. O Brahma, do thou practice spiritual association by means of this mantra, then all your desires will be fulfilled.
Hello, Brahma. Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Kaloka, Lord of Savatvipa, for a long time. His meditation ran thus: there exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments, in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its world, there exists a divine throne on which is seated Shri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound, with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. Then, Gayatri, mother of Vedas, being made manifest, imparted by the divine sound of the flute of Shri Krishna, entered into the lotus mouth of Brahma, born from himself through his 8 ear holes. The lotus-born Brahma, having received the Gayatri sprung from the flute song of Shri Krishna, attained the status of the twice-born, having been initiated by the supreme primal preceptor, God himself. Enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri embodying the 3 Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Shri Krishna, the essence of all Vedas, with this hymn. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desires, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopas. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who's adept in playing on his flute with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful 3-fold bending form of Shyamasundara is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis, who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore.
I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveniences and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities in the company of her confident Sakis, embodiments of the extension of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Sham Sundara, Krishna himself with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Ram, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose effulgence is the source of the non-differentiated Brahman mentioned in the Upanishads, being differentiated from the infinity of glories of the mundane universe, appears as indivisible, infinite, limitless truth.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is the absolute substantive principle, being the ultimate entity in the form of the support of all existence, whose external potency embodies the threefold mundane qualities vis-a-vis sattva, rajas, and tamas, and diffuses the Vedic knowledge regarding the mundane world. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose glory ever triumphantly dominates the mundane world by the activity of his own pastimes, being reflected in the mind of recollecting souls as a transcendental entity of ever blissful cognitive rasa. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham, mundane world. Next above it is Mahesh Dham, abode of Mahesha. Above Mahesh Dham is placed Hari Dham, abode of Hari, and above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted their respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. The external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as nor different from its cause vis-a-vis milk. So I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction.
The light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who exhibits himself equally in the same mobile manner in his various manifestations. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who is assuming his own great subjective form, who bears the name of Sesha, replete with all the all-accommodating potency, and reposing in the causal ocean with the infinity of the world in the pores of his hair, enjoying creative sleep, yoga nidra. Brahma and other lords of the mundane worlds, appearing from the pores of the hair of Mahavishnu, remain alive as long as duration of one exhalation of the latter, Mahavishnu. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whose subjective personality, Mahavishnu, is the portion of portion. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom the separated subjective portion, Brahma, receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world. Just as the sun manifests some portion of his own light in all the effulgent gems that bear the name of Suryakanta, etc. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whose lotus feet are always held by Ganesha upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant head, in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all the obstacles on the path of progress of the three worlds.
The three worlds are composed of the 9 elements, vis-a-vis fire, earth, ether, water, air, direction, time, soul, and mind. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom they originate, in whom they exist, and into whom they enter at the time of the universal cataclysm. The sun, who is the king of all planets, full of infinite effulgence, the image of the good soul, is as the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, by whose conferred power are maintained the manifested potencies that are found to exist of all virtues, all vices, the Vedas, the penances of all 5 jivas, from Brahma to the meanest insect. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who burns up to their roots all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion and impartiality, ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities, and all those who walk on the path of work in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works, no less in the case of the tiny insect that bears the name of Indragopa than is that of Indira, king of the Devas. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, the meditators of whom, by meditating upon him under the sway of wrath, amorous passion, natural friendly love, fear, parental affection, delusion, reverence, and willing service, attain to bodily form, befitting the nature of their contemplation.
I worship the transcendental seat known as Savitathvipa, where as loving consorts, the Laxmis, in their unalloyed spiritual essence, practice the amorous service of the Supreme Lord Krishna as their only lover, where every tree is a transcendental purpose tree, where the soil is the purpose gem. All water is nectar, every word is a song, every gait is a dance. The flute is the favorite attendant. Effulgence is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty, where numberless milk cows always emit transcendental oceans of milk, where there is external existence of transcendental time, who is ever present and without past or future, and hence is not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Kaloka only to a few self-realized souls in this world. On hearing these hymns containing the essence of the truth, the Supreme Lord Krishna said to Brahma, Brahma, if you experience the inclination to create offspring by being endowed with the real knowledge of the glory of Godhead, listen, my beloved, from me to the signs set forth in the following 5 slokas. When the pure spiritual experience is excited by means of cognition and service, bhakti, super excellent, unalloyed devotion characterized by love for Godhead is awakened towards Krishna. the beloved of all souls. The highest devotion is attained by slow degrees by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization with the help of spiritual evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. These preliminary practices of devotion, sadhana bhakti, are conducive to the realization of loving devotion. Loving devotion, than whom there is no superior well-being, who goes hand in hand with the attainment of the exclusive state of supreme bliss, and who can lead to myself.
Abandoning all meritorious performances, serve me with faith. The realization will correspond to the nature of one's faith. The people of the world act ceaselessly in pursuance of some ideal. By meditating on me by means of those deeds, one will obtain devotion, characterized by love in the shape of the supreme service. Listen, O Vidhi, I am the seed, that is, the fundamental principle of this world of animate and inanimate objects. I am Pradhana, the substance of matter. I am Prakriti, material cause, and I am Purusha, efficient cause. This fiery energy that belongs especially to the Brahman, that inheres in you, has also been conferred by me. It is by bearing this fiery energy that you regulate this phenomenal world of animate and inanimate objects. Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna. So, I know you guys came here for the first time today, probably not expecting to have this whole... this is kind of a advanced scripture, you know, let's say. It's not a beginner scripture, and it might be a little difficult to understand. But I'm curious, from all of you, what comments, reflections, questions, what did it feel like to chant the Sanskrit shlokas? I know it's probably hard to follow along. I like to chant when we get to the Chintamani, to the part, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, I like to chant them in kind of couplets, where I do the first two lines together, and then pause, and then the second two lines. I know that sometimes that's how I learned it from my Sankirtan leader, Haripad. We used to, when I was in Los Angeles in, would have been 1979, I think, I went to Los Angeles Temple, and I got, there were like 500 devotees living in the community, and they were all divided into different, different groups for doing different kinds of services. So I was with the men's group that went to the airport to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books in Los Angeles Airport. And our group, our group leader was Haripad Das, and he had he had us wake up at 2:30 every morning so that we could chant all our rounds before. Haribol, good to see you, Prabhu. We could chant all our rounds before the Mangalarti, our first service in the morning, which is 4:30 in the morning. Or maybe we'd have a few rounds left. But then after the Mangalarti and the worship of Tulsi Devi, we would go back to our brahmachari book distribution room together, and we would recite Brahma Samhita and other parts of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Rishabhadev's instructions to his sons, or Prahlad Maharaj's teachings to his classmates or to his father, or various sections of the Bhagavatam together. We would recite them, and it became a very nourishing thing to just be reciting the Sanskrit of these verses. But I want to know, it might not be the first thing you expect when you first come to a temple. I want to get your reflections and questions and comments, if any. Thanks. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but...
Well, I found it, like you mentioned, very nourishing, relaxing, and the Sanskrit was beautiful. It was probably my first real exposure to it, and it was musical in a sense. And I definitely admire your Sanskrit ability. I found that pretty exceptional, being a new person exposed to this. But no, it was beautiful and comforting and very enlightening. And I found the scripture to be very instructional.
Thank you very much. You got to chant Kling Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, a mantra that we heard can fulfill all of your desires. What do you think of that?
Tom is much better at reading phonetic words than I am.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Todd is much better at reading phonetic characters than I am. It was very hard to read them, but yeah, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, it's you're being like brought in cold on this big long prayer. I was afraid that you might get bored or something like that. But any other comments, reflections, or questions? Anything about the text? We read it in English too. As you mentioned, it's very poetic. It's full of metaphors. It has a poetic, it's got rhymes and rhythm and everything like that. And it also has very deep theological messages that most people don't ever get to appreciate. But, you could study this in a doctoral, seminary program or something and get a lot out of it, actually. It's a fact. Prabhuji, Rohit?
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised that they're still here and enjoyed it, so it's good.
Me too.
Good. Yeah, I think it's a nice practice to read these over and over again. Sometimes when I read them once, I'm like, okay, I know this, and I zone out, but then you really listen, and it's so nice to hear it again, because it really solidifies in your heart the meaning, and it gives you another perspective, another view of what you're actually reading, so I'm very appreciative.
Anything from you guys?
I also echo all the comments. I always like the Govinda Madipurusham verses all the time. It has this traditional South Indian tune. It's originally when sung by Prabhupada, it wasn't this tune. So this tune has a sort of a mystical way of focusing to higher consciousness. Even if my mind is distracted, when many people sing together, it makes a big difference. This is just, I've always had that experience when I chant.
Are you from South India? Or?
Yes.
We'll be reading a little something from Caitanya Caritamrta today about Lord Chaitanya's travels through South India.
Sure.
And you'll see that when Lord Chaitanya was in Navadvip, which was like a university town, it was a place of learning with scholars in logic and philosophy, and also there were a lot of the Brahmins there were very focused on following rituals exactly according to the Smriti Shastras, but they didn't have the emotional devotion of the Vaishnavas, and so Lord Chaitanya didn't manifest his full potency while he was still in Navadvip. But when he took sannyas, he went on a tour of South India. His brother had years ago taken sannyas and gone to South India, and no one ever heard from him again. That was the days before Facebook, and he went down on the plea of looking for his brother, but also he had a mission to fulfill. And when he got into South India, people were very receptive, and they all became, by his power, he displayed his power, and they all became pure Vaishnavas, chanting and teaching each other and everything. We'll read a little something about that today. Prabhuji, can you say something? It seems that we have a broken microphone that we should get it fixed.
It's working actually. I think the Brahma Samhita prayers are quite wonderful. I think there are two aspects to this prayers actually. Initially, how the description of the creation is being spoken, and then Lord Brahma himself glorifies the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. And I think Prabhupada always stressed us to understand about God and where He is really residing to get the details. And I think this prayer actually quite beautifully describes who the Supreme Person is and where He resides and what's His pastimes, and which we don't find in many other scriptures, which is quite personal, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, who's a greater authority than Brahma, right?
Yeah.
We also see in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto how Lord Brahma tried to play a trick on Krishna when Krishna had appeared on earth, and then offered beautiful prayers to Lord Krishna when he realized, when he was defeated in his power by Krishna. You know, Brahma is basically the being the creator of the universe, and the highest, the highest of all the demigods. They go to Lord Brahma. He's on a different level than them. His planetary system is the highest planet in the universe, and the Vedas come out of his mouth, his four mouths, and to hear his description of Krishna and Govinda, and especially Krishna's own planet. In the very beginning of the poem, it's kind of like a mandala is being described, where there's a quadrantal, area, and a hexagonal figure, and a whirl of a 1,000-petaled lotus flower, where Krishna stays in the whirl and in the hexagonal whirl, and then there's leaves, which are the abodes of different gopis who are similar in essence. This prayer was found by Lord Chaitanya during his tour of South India. He went to a temple on the banks of the Payasvini river called Adikeshava temple. And when he was there, they had in the temples would have these leaves, ancient leaves with writing on them made with, sticks digging into the leaves and making it was a kind of writing without ink. And he found this Brahma Samhita there, and he was very much impressed by it, and had a new copy made for the temple. I think he brought back the original old leaves to show the devotees and to show that it was authentic. I think some people have suggested, maybe Lord Chaitanya himself wrote it. To which our Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, said, that would be even better, written directly by Lord Chaitanya. But actually he found it in a temple where it was there already in ancient scripture. And then once again, in the very pious, holy area of South India. Muslims had come in through the Khyber Pass and so forth, and raided the northern part of India and established kingdoms there and things, but South India remained a lot more pure in many ways for a lot longer. And there are so many great geniuses that come from that region. So was there any verse that we read that anyone thought, let's discuss that verse a little more, let's unpack what's being said there?
A more general question.
Sure.
I noticed compared to a lot of other religious scriptures, this one was much more specific in its descriptions. 4 mouths, hexagonal, 8 heads. Is that to be taken literally, metaphorically? How is that to be interpreted?
It's literal. Yeah. But like any good literature, it has multiple deeper meanings, deeper realizations. It was sometimes said, I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, although I can't quote exactly where, that in poetry there's metaphors, and in just the initial understanding, one looks at a poem and takes it at face value, and it's just what it says. And then later, one may appreciate the metaphors and the deeper meanings about the different personalities, and one may adopt a more metaphorical attitude toward it. But he says that an even further understanding than that is when one actually has realization, and one can then see and talk to the gods and perceive the creation of the universe as it's been described. By hearing through our ears, we actually develop the Shastra Chakshush, the eyes, to actually see everything the way it's described in Shastra. So, like in ancient, not just ancient, even in Lord Byron and the 19th century Romantic poets and things like that in English, people took liberty to take Greek and Roman myth, the pagan traditions, and then use that to express thoughts by putting things in the words of the gods and the mythological figures that society has a common relation to. Even in ancient Greece, they were doing that. If you read like dialogues of Plato, and they're composing, spontaneously composing poems about gods and what they said and did and everything, there's a sense in which they feel the liberty to, as a poet, just make stuff up. But if it's a good poem, people will recognize that this is in keeping with the character of Apollo or Eros or whatever. I think that's already a decadent period in Greek culture, and that previously people heard the stories. Homer heard the stories. He wasn't creating it, but was actually revealing what he had understood through a mystical process, a few hundred years or several hundred years earlier than the golden age of Athens or whatever. But at least in Vedic culture, the stories are written down by great sages, and not just by materially influenced poets. They're written down by great sages who have the power to perceive what they're writing about, or who are being inspired. Any poetry has to be inspired somewhat, right? To write poetry, someone has to feel their heart is moved to come up with the right things. I appreciate poetry because I speak English as my native language, of many English poets, especially religious ones. I was just reading Gerard Manley Hopkins, a Jesuit priest, who wrote a poem about glory to God for dappled things, and I was reading it and I was seeing that, at least as I was seeing it, he was talking about how there's duality and non-duality in God at the same time, which is very much of a Gaudiya Vaishnava concept. So people get inspired by the Supersoul in their heart. In fact, we couldn't even do anything without the inspiration of Supersoul. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Hriti sannivishto mataksmatir granam sarvasya chaham hriti sannivishto mataksmritir jnanam apohanangcha vedaischa sarvairaham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. So he says that he is in the hearts of all beings, and from him, as Supersoul, he's allowing them to remember and to know and to forget also. Like we forget what we were in our last lives. It would be too traumatic for us to have to remember all our prior lives and everything. But he helps us remember what we need to know to get by in this life and continue our work that we've done from our previous life. And Vedaischa Sarvairaham Eva Vedyo, that the purpose for the Vedic scriptures, and they're very vast, and they cover all kinds of topics, both material, practical topics as well as spiritual topics. But the purpose is to know him, he says. Krishna says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. That's the ultimate subject of the Vedas. And he says, I am the author of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So he's inspiring us from our hearts, and without him we couldn't, without God in our hearts, we're just like little parts of God. So we have senses, we have a mind, we have intelligence, we have convictions and memory and so forth. But without him, we couldn't have any of that. We couldn't perceive anything. We couldn't be conscious without him. We are eternally linked, as this book says, that we're bound to him by a tie of an eternal kinship. And even though we're conditioned souls in this world, that's another great thing about this scripture is it's talking about the spiritual world. Those verses with Govindamadi Purushantamaham Bhajami, they start with that concept. Chintamani Prakarasadmashu Kalpavriksha Laksha. Let's look at that one. Translation, please. So, it's verse number 29. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis, or gopis. So to unpack a little of the meaning here, there's a kind of cow in Vedic literature known as a surabhi cow. And an ordinary cow will give a certain quantity of milk, but a surabhi cow will give as much milk as required and anything else that's required. It's like a, so you wouldn't find them on earth normally, you'd find them in heaven. Right? There would be these surabhi cows who can fulfill all of your desires. If you want a house, a big mansion with a swimming pool or whatever, the cow will just produce that for you, actually. So Krishna is known as a cowherd boy. Govinda means that he's pleasing the cows, he's tending the cows. Gopal means he's a raiser of cows. And but what cows are they? This prayer is saying that the cows in Krishna's own abode are wish-fulfilling cows that give you whatever you desire. And the abodes there, the houses and everything, are built with spiritual gems. The word is chintamani. Chintamani is like you. Similarly, it's a stone, like the philosopher's stone was reputed that you could make gold out of it. You could touch things with it and make them gold if you're an alchemist or something. But the wish-fulfilling Chintamani stone is greater than that even. It won't just produce gold, it'll also produce whatever you desire, a house, a Maserati, or a big bank account if you want money, whatever you could think of, it would produce that. And the trees there are purpose trees. That's also there. That if you could go to a kalpavriksha, a purpose tree, and present a wish, the tree will give you. A normal tree will give you so much fruit, only one kind of fruit. But a purpose tree, you can get any kind of fruit you want, or not just fruit, but from the tree you can get whatever you want. The danger is you have to know what to want, right? If you want the wrong things, you'll just be further entangled in material samsara, we call it, birth and death. We should want something that's higher than anything mundane. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about how people tend to worship demigods, and quickly, through that worship, it actually works. If they know how to do it right, and they're faithful to it, they can actually achieve results by performing sacrifices and chanting different prayers and so forth. But he says, Antavat tu palang tesham tadbhavat yalpamedhasam devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. He says, those who are seeking material things from the demigods, good health, good spouse, good family, good wealth, and higher birth in the next life, position in society, skill in speaking or in math or in any field of endeavor. Those things are temporary. You're still going to die. You can't take it with you. That's the old saying. So Krishna's saying that they're less intelligent. Alpametasam means they have small intelligence because they're not seeking the right things. We have to know what to seek. But in the spiritual world of Krishna, everybody there already knows what to seek. Just to be there means they are already lovers of Krishna. And Lakshmis here, he's served by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or gopis. So Lakshmi is the word for the goddess of fortune. In Shakespeare, there's a sonnet that says, "When in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone bewail my useless state and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries." I forget the sonnet but the idea is that fortune with a capital F is a real person. And this is known in the West. I think a lot of this is kind of suppressed by Islam and Christianity because of their strong sense of monotheism and not understanding that Krishna can still be one God and also have his counterpart, his wife, his goddess of fortune, or his Radharani, his gopi, his consort. They are really one. He splits himself into two to enjoy loving pastimes, but it's not like, people think of it as a polytheistic concept, that we have Krishna and God, and then we also have Radha, the goddess, on the altar, or we have Lord Nrsingadev, God, and then we see Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is sitting on his lap. So they say, oh, this is polytheism. But it's more sophisticated than that. Krishna talks about how, there are unlimited varieties of people and gods and demons and so forth in the world, but they're all under Krishna's control, and ultimately Krishna is the ultimate reality of everything. So it's not polytheism. So the Lakshmis are goddesses of fortune. The goddess of fortune, if anybody is seen to be wealthy or beautiful or powerful, opulent, they say he's been graced by fortune. Fortune also has a reputation in the Indian culture. She's known as Chanchala. Chanchala means fickle. She doesn't stay with any one person very long. In Shakespeare, you see him calling her, like a harlot or whatever, which is kind of offensive. But the idea being, that strumpet fortune, the idea being that one day you're favored by fortune and you're getting everything you want, and then the next day she abandons you and goes off to someone else, and then you curse, oh, that unfaithful woman's fortune, she didn't stay by me. Actually, she's the most faithful, but her actual husband is Krishna. And so she shouldn't be expected to stay with us. Yet in this world, by Krishna's arrangement, fortune sometimes casts her favorable glance on us and then goes away. So she's known as flickering, as unsteady, as unfaithful, unchaste. But she's really the most chaste. She always stays on Krishna's chest in the form of a little Srivatsa, a little like hair on his chest is actually the goddess of fortune. So in the spiritual world, where the trees are all-purpose trees and the cows are all Surabhi cows, and the houses are made out of the gems of Chintamani, which fulfill all desires, the people there are also Krishna's lovers, goddesses of fortune, in the form of cowherd girls, just simple, they don't appear very opulent as like brilliant goddesses of fortune. They appear like simple rural women, and they love Krishna like anything. And there are millions of them, and he's the master of all these different people. So that's this poem is explaining what the spiritual world, the kingdom of heaven is like, or the kingdom of God. In Western theology, there's a big problem of evil that people are concerned about, and they think, well, if God is all powerful, and if God is all good and compassionate, and he can do anything he wants, why did he create a world that's full of injustice, pain, suffering, ugliness, evil? It's also, people recognize it's full of beautiful things too. That's why I was thinking of that poem by the Jesuit priest about dappled things, the brinded cow, and the rose molds on the trout all in stipple. But he's talking about how there's duality, how there's things are beautiful when there's contrast, when there's variety. And in this world, it's full of variety. But they're thinking that this is the world that God created, and we see around us, why would he create a world with so much evil? Actually, this is not the whole world he created. This is a small part of the whole world he created. And at least 3 times more of the infinite world than material world is a perfect spiritual place where there is no distress, and there is no injustice, and there is no suffering, really. What looks like suffering there is really another kind of ecstasy of love. And that's the real world. And this is like the dungeon world that conditioned souls come to when they want to turn their back on Krishna. And then the sufferings and things that go on here serve purposes, Krishna's purposes out of kindness for us. First of all, he gives us a chance to compete with others, to lord it over each other, and sometimes mistreat each other cruelly. He gives us a chance because we want to do that. But there has to be a reckoning. So when we do bad things to other people, then they get to do bad things to us, and according to the laws of karma. That's another verse from here I'd like to just discuss quickly. It's a little hard to understand when you read it the first time. Text 54. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who burns up to their roots all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion, and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities, of all those who walk in the path of work, in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works, no less in the case of the tiny insect that bears the name of Indragopa than in that of Indra, king of the Devas. So there's something poetic going on here that the king of heaven, the sort of king of the demigod, there's earlier in this text it was said that there's lowest of all is located Devi Dhamma, and above Devi Dhamma is Shiva's Dhamma, Mahesh Dham, and above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dhamma, and above them all is Goloka. So in Devi Dhamma there's also, that is the material world, and Shiva's abode is right on the edge of the material and spiritual world. And in the material world, there are different realms. And in one realm is the realm of the administrative demigods who control the sun and the rain and the wind and the water and fire and the air and so forth. And of them all, Indra, who's very glorified in the Rig Veda and other places, is he's the king of those administrative demigods. Now Brahma, he's in a realm much higher than that. So when the demigods, like the earth and so on, get troubled, they go to see Brahma, and then Brahma gets in touch with Vishnu, and then Vishnu tells them how he's going to settle their problems. But Indra is, if you wanted to think of, who's a very great personality, like you could say, well, Rockefeller has a lot of money, or Donald Trump now has a lot of power, or the Queen Victoria of England at the height of the British Empire, whatever, was a powerful person. But if you want to look at an example, in poetry, to think of some powerful person, who would you look to beyond Indra, the king of heaven, the king of the gods that control rain and sun and fire and air? And yet, there's a kind of a very tiny little insect, microscopic insect, called Indragopa. And so what they're saying is that everyone in this world, Devi Dham, from Indragopa, the tiniest insect, to Indradeva himself, the king of heaven, is controlled by the laws of karma. As you reap, so you sow. As you sow, so you shall reap. If you plant the seeds of tomatoes, you're not going to get corn because, whatever deeds you perform in this life, in your pursuit of whatever ideals and happiness and goals you have made for yourself, those activities are themselves planting seeds that will later blossom into certain mentalities, desires, attitudes, and eventually into a future fate, or even when at the time of your death. It's the combination of that karma that will control, by divine arrangement, how you'll be put into what family and what body, what kind of species or anything you'll be in your next life. So there's a regime, and it's this stringent rule. It's governed by a god named Yamaraj, the king of death. And he awards for everybody, like in a great court, that, this is what you did in your life, this is where you're going now for your next life. Sometimes in order to accept your next life, especially if you're going down, just because you're a human being doesn't mean you'll never become an animal again. But if you have to accept now that you've prepared yourself for the life of a pig or something like that, you may have to be tortured by his servants in order to shape your mentality to be able to just become a pig in your next life, or a dog or whatever. So that law of karma is going on. But this verse says that ultimately it's Govinda above Yamaraj who's impartially ordaining for each according to their karma. Like a judge has to be impartial, right? He doesn't think, well, I'm going to let you off with a suspended sentence because I really like your style, man. He has to mete out the law according to what you did and what your circumstances are, and that's why he gives you the sentence. So Krishna impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's karma. The karma pal, the fruit, means the result of your karma. When you act in a certain way, it creates a seed, and that seed later sprouts, and the sprout later grows branches and twigs and fruits and flowers. And the fruits and flowers are the actual prarabdha karma that you're experiencing in terms of happiness and distress in different situations in your life. And all that's being going on in an impersonal, very perfect justice system of the universe. But this verse is saying that Govinda does something else that's beyond that realm of karma. If any of you are familiar with the Christian theology that it's not by works but by grace that we're saved and so forth, it's very much confirmed in Vaishnava literature as well, that Krishna destroys the karma of those who approach him and who are imbued with devotion. So it comes from outside that realm of karma. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 6th canto, there's a very beautiful story about how a Brahmin, went astray and committed all kinds of sinful activities. And in his old age, he had many children, and one of his children was named Narayan, his little young child. In his old age, he was always chanting Narayan, Narayana, Narayana. And then, when he was near his death, the servants of Yamaraj came to arrest him and take him to the court and be punished for all his crimes. And he was there dying in bed, and he saw these ugly, scary servants taking him down to have him punished for his crimes, and he shouted out, "Narayana," a name of Krishna. And then all of a sudden, his guardian angels, the Vishnu Dutas, came. There were 3 servants of Yamaraj taking him away, and then 4 servants of Vishnu came with 4 arms, very strong, very beautiful, shining, dazzling way. And they said, "You can't take him." And the Yamadutas were very surprised. No one ever stopped them in their service of carrying out karma, right? That was their duty, was to carry out the effects of karma. They were very surprised to be stopped by representatives of Vishnu who were too powerful. They knew they couldn't fight them or anything. And they had a discussion. And the Vishnu Dutas said, "Yes, sure, he's committed sins, but he's chanting the name of Narayan. And anyone who chants Narayan's name, you can't take him." And so then they went back to Yamaraj, and they had a discussion that's recounted with Yamaraj. And they said, "My Lord, we always thought you were the most powerful person. You control everybody, even King Indra. Is there someone more powerful than you? Why were we stopped in our service?" And Yamaraj said, "Whatever I do as a servant of Vishnu. And Vishnu is the supreme God. And anyone who even looks like they might be a devotee of Vishnu, you can't touch him." Anyway, there's a lot of very beautiful discussions and descriptions in there. But you can see how there's a lot really packed into this little scripture that we just read. A lot about what the spiritual world is. The spiritual world is the place beyond karma. Nobody is getting the results of karma there. Because they're not acting to enjoy anything, they're only acting to please Krishna there. They're totally in love with Krishna. And that's the character of the real world. That's our natural, what we say, constitutional position. So let's have some singing now to sort of liven things up. Does anybody here play mridanga well? Or I guess you'll be stuck with me. And maybe someone can play kartals? Excuse me, put the song Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. The marketplace of the holy name. Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. Patiyache Nam Hata Jibera Karan. Patiyati Nam Hata. Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. Shradhavan Jan Hai, Shradhavan Jan Hai. Shradhavan Jan Hai, Shradhavan Jan Hai. Prabhura Agyay Bhai Mageye Ebhika. Prabhura Agyay Bhai Magiye Bhika. Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shikha. Next. Aparadha shunna hoy loho Krishna nam. Aparadha shunya hoy loho Krishna nam. Krishna mata, Krishna pita, Krishna dhana pran. Krishna mata, Krishna pita, Krishna dhana pran. Krishnera samsara kori chari anachar. Jive doya Krishna nam sarva dharma shar. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let's read the translation of this song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I was trying to say, like the Bengalis say, shika, pika, certain consonants they just don't pronounce. Kshatriya, Parikit Maharaj, and things like that. So in the land of Nadia, on the island of Godruma, the magnanimous Lord Nityananda has opened up the marketplace of the holy name meant for the deliverance of all fallen souls. All right, so for those of you who are newcomers here, Krishna came to earth many, many years ago, like 5,000 years ago. But then in around like 1486, he came again as Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And he was accompanied by Lord Nityananda, who was his brother. Even though they weren't born in the same family, they were really, spiritually, it was Krishna and Balaram. Lord Nityananda is Balaram and Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. And Lord Nityananda, we were reading the other day how all the devotees, when Lord Krishna became a sannyasi, that is a renounced monk, his mother instructed him to stay in Jagannath Puri so she would be able to get news from him and not lose him. His other brother had gone. Actually, he had many older, his parents had many children that died in childbirth, or died in infancy. And then his brother Vishvarupa, his elder brother Vishvarupa, grew up and became a sannyasi and went to South India, and no one ever heard of him again. So then he wanted to take sannyas when he was 24 years old, and his mother asked him, please stay in Jagannath Puri. Now this might seem like just a coincidence or whatever, but actually there's a great significance to Jagannath Puri and the Jagannath deity in connection with Lord Chaitanya's own message for the world and the example that he set, in particularly the mood of vipralambha, or separation from Krishna. So Lord Jagannath became his main deity, that he was there in the town of Jagannath Puri. And the devotees from Navadvip, from Bengal, who would come south every year for the big Rath Yatra festival. Jagannath Puri is a beautiful, holy city on the seaside in Orissa, right on the Bay of Bengal, and they have a magnificent ancient temple there, a very big ancient temple there, where Lord Jagannath stays. And then once a year, there's a giant procession where the deity comes out of the temple and gets on a cart, and the pilgrims pull him. In fact, Srila Prabhupada established this Jagannath Rath Yatra festival in all the cities of the world now. You can see it in London, you can participate in Durban, South Africa, or Washington, D.C., and here in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. There's a very marvelous festival every year in Los Angeles, California, where they go through like Santa Monica and down to Venice Beach. And these are replicas, but the original Rath Yatra festival is in the original Lord Jagannath's town of Jagannath Puri, and the devotees would come there and they would stay there and get to be with Lord Chaitanya for some time. And in those days they would walk there. So to come from, they didn't get on horseback and ride down or anything like that. They mostly would just take, as we call it, Shank's mare. They would walk on their legs. And it might take them a month to get there and a month to get back and another month to stay there. It took a lot of their time out of their year to be going down every year to visit Lord Chaitanya at this wonderful festival. Because the festival itself takes almost like 2 weeks. The Lord Jagannath comes from the temple. He goes to another temple called Gundicha Mandir. The devotees would go there. First, they would clean the Gundicha Mandir to prepare for the festival. And then Lord Jagannath would go there and stay there for a week or two. And then Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, would come out of the temple of Jagannath with her servants and everything, and they would demand that Jagannath comes back. There's a pastime called Hara Panchami of bringing him back into the Jagannath temple, and that takes some time. So one of those times, Lord Chaitanya called Lord Nityananda to him, his closest associate, his brother, Lord Nityananda. They're Krishna and Balaram themselves. And he said, I don't want you to come every year to the Rath Yatra. All the devotees loved coming to the Rath Yatra throughout their rest of the year. They're thinking, when can I go see Lord Chaitanya again? When can I be in his presence again? But Lord Chaitanya told Nityananda, I have a duty for you to go back to Bengal and convert everybody to Krishna consciousness there. And I want you to... In fact, Lord Nityananda, he was born in a holy city associated with the Pandavas in the Mahabharata. They stayed at that city, Ekachakra, which is in Bengal. I think it's where Bhima killed one of the Rakshasas, Hidimba, and then he married the sister Hidimbi, and who was the mother of Gotachaka from the Battle of Kurukshetra. But Lord Nityananda's father, Hadai Pandit, and everybody in the whole village was just mesmerized by this little boy that was in their village, and it was so amazing. He and his friends would act out all the pastimes of Krishna very perfectly. They would put on these wonderful dramas and everything, and everybody loved them. And one time a visiting mendicant came to the village, a very great devotee, a great sadhu, and he stayed with Hadai Pandit, and Hadai Pandit was very, very pleased by his spiritual association, and he said, is there anything I can do for you, great sadhu? I'll seek to satisfy you in every way. And the sadhu said, there is one thing. I'm an elderly sannyasi. To this point, I don't have a personal servant. And I want your son. He's a fine young man. I will train him in the highest spiritual teachings and practices. I want him to travel with me as a brahmachari servant and help me. And of course this was like a thunderbolt to Hadai Pandit's heart, because he loved his son so deeply and didn't want to part with him. But at the same time he was true to his word, and in fact some people say, I believe it's common wisdom, that sadhu was himself Madhavendra Puri, who was described as the root of the Lord Chaitanya tree. He was a devotee that worshipped Krishna in the mood of separation, and a great devotee of Krishna who was actually told by Krishna in a dream to go get a deity that was hidden in the bushes, and install him on Govardhan Hill, that Gopal or Srinathji deity that is now very famous. But anyway, Lord Nityananda traveled around with Madhavendra Puri and became a perfect brahmachari assistant, and was a lifelong celibate. But at this meeting with Lord Chaitanya said, I want you to go back to Bengal and not come back to Orissa every year like all the Bengali devotees. You have to keep the mission going in Bengal. And he also told him, I want you to get married. Lord Nityananda had been celibate all his life and didn't have a need to get married. But Lord Chaitanya said, it will help your mission there if you get married. So anyway, this song is about Lord Nityananda, and the Navadvip, the name Navadvip, the town where Lord Chaitanya came from in West Bengal, it literally means nine islands, just like we were talking in this book about Shweta-dvip. Shweta-dvipa, Dvipa means an island, so Shweta-dvipa means a white island, and it's a mystical place, the spiritual world within the material universe. There's a place where the spiritual world is fully manifest, an unlimited spiritual world. So, this is talking about Lord Nityananda's evangelical activities in Bengal. He would actually go and beg people to just chant Hare Krishna, and just, he would, even though he was a very exalted personality, he would get down in the dust, even roll on the ground, and say, please, just try chanting Hare Krishna. It's so good for you, and you'll really enjoy it. He didn't take a condescending position that, I'm a great learned Pandit and scholar, and I'm a great religious man, and you have to do what I say. He took a humble position to everyone. He would knock on people's doors and say, I'm just coming door to door, asking everyone to talk about Krishna, hear about Krishna, and especially chant Krishna's names. So this song is about that. The island of Godruma, the author of this song is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He had a house in Godruma, and but this is one of the places that Lord Nityananda was preaching. In the island of Godruma, the magnanimous Lord Nityananda has opened up the marketplace of the holy name, meant for the deliverance of all fallen souls. So this marketplace is the idea that people come from the countryside and they get their whatever they've grown, their produce and things, and they wrap them up in a blanket, and they come to a town and they open it up, like we see farmers markets and things like that. They sell whatever they have to make a little living for themselves. But this is a marketplace where Lord Nityananda is selling the holy name of Krishna for the deliverance of fallen souls. O men of faith, O men of faith, by the order of Lord Gauranga, O brothers, I beg these three requests of you. Chant Krishna, worship Krishna, and follow Krishna's instructions. So a holy man in India, it's very common that they'll be receiving alms, going places, and it's a pious thing to do, to give something to a holy man who has no other sort. He's just depending on God for his livelihood, and then people will give him some rice or some wheat flour or whatever, so that he can sustain his life. So he's saying, I'm begging this alms. Chant Krishna, worship Krishna, and follow Krishna's instructions. Koro Krishna Shiksha means two things. Do what Krishna says, and it also means tell people what Krishna says. Because Krishna tells us to tell people what Krishna says. That's one of Krishna's instructions. Hare Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Na cha tasman manusyeshu priya kritama. What is the whole verse? Do you know? Na cha tasman manusyeshu kashid me priya kritama. That there's no one more dear to me than the person who explains the confidential secret of Krishna consciousness to the faithful devotees. So Lord Nityananda was instructing people not just to chant Hare Krishna and worship Krishna, but to also become followers of Krishna's instructions, including the instruction to teach Krishna's instructions. Goro Krishna Shiksha can mean do what Krishna says, and it can mean also do the act of imparting what Krishna says to others. So, text 3. Prabhuji, we're ready for 3. He's been up very early in the morning getting the deities dressed and everything, woken. Being careful to remain free of offenses, just take the holy name of Lord Krishna. Krishna is your mother, Krishna is your father, and Krishna is the treasure of your life. Giving up all improper behavior, carry on your worldly duties only in relation to Krishna. The showing of compassion to all fallen souls by loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna is the essence of all forms of religion. So he's not saying you have to give up your worldly duties and go live in an ashram and just meditate on Krishna all day long. He's saying give up improper behavior. Give up sinful life. Stop eating meat. If you ate meat, don't eat meat. Don't chase women. Don't take intoxication. But you can care for your family. You can have a family. You can earn an honest living. But do it in relation to Krishna. Understand that Krishna is the provider, the maintainer of your family, and that everything you're doing is ultimately for Him, and you're offering everything to Him. There's another song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur where he says, Manasa deho geho yo kichumor arpadun tu apade nanda kishore. That my mind, my family, my house, everything, I surrender at your lotus feet. It all belongs to you, O son of Maharaj Nanda. So the showing of compassion to all fallen souls by loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna is the essence of all forms of religion. That should really, Jive doi Krishna nam sarva dharma sar, that should be ingrained in us. This is a very nice song that explains the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement. Any comments or questions at this point? Or yes, Prabhu. Yes, yeah. When we talk here, we're use that one because this one's have been having a little trouble. That red one there is better. But when we talk here, we're being recorded and we're also being broadcast, and a lot of people are watching. I know it's very few people here today, but there's probably a lot of people at home watching. So.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
They only hear you if you use the mic.
Thank you, Prabhu. So Jiva Doi and the second component is Nama Ruchi. Is it all the same? Bhaktivinoda talked about these two components, Jiva Doi and Nama Ruchi, as being the essence of religion. Is this together?
Jiva Doi Krishna Nam. Yeah. Yeah, he's saying that that doya, that compassion, is expressed by giving the holy name. I was talking about this on Ram Navami a little bit. You know, people are suffering in this world, and we don't like to see them suffering, and we like to help people when they're in trouble. We like to feed the hungry and clothe the poor, and But that won't really solve the problems of birth and death unless they get something more than that. And we have something higher that most people don't know about, and that is that chanting Hare Krishna can actually solve all your problems. It can take you to the world where everything is made of chintamani, and all the trees are purpose trees, and the cows are Sarabi cows, and Krishna is being served there by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. So that's an actual fact. And so Jiva Doi, real compassion, is more than just giving someone some food to eat. That's the expression that they always use. If you give a man a fish, he'll eat for one night, but if you teach him to catch fish, then he can eat. Of course, we don't eat fish. But then if you teach someone they can, make a living for themselves, then it's better than just giving them on temporary relief. So we are actually, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, we have been charged with teaching how to get rid of all miseries. By the grace, Krishna talks about in Bhagavad Gita that this is the process by which one can actually come to the end of all miseries and come transcendental in the three modes of material nature. Those who are situated mainly in the mode of goodness, they experience happiness in this way, that it tastes in the beginning, but it tastes like nectar in the end, and it's purifying. In the mode of passion, it tastes like nectar in the beginning, but it's like poison in the end, and it's just causes distress. And then in the mode of ignorance, it's just distress from beginning to end, and there's no knowledge, like people who take intoxication or whatever, and they feel some kind of euphoria by, injecting heroin or something, but then it's all ignorance from beginning to end, and it just ruins their lives. But then Krishna says, by this devotional service, one can transcend even material happiness in the mode of goodness, and one can experience unlimited happiness from within. And that's what this Hare Krishna movement is dedicated to doing. That's what Lord Nityananda was doing. He wasn't just going around and saying, here, I'll give you something to eat. He was going around and saying something. He was saying, please, chant Hare Krishna and go on with your worldly duties. You can earn a little, you can eat, you can put aside a little money for retirement. When Sanatana and Rupa Goswami were retiring from a very important government service, the two brothers were from a high-class Brahmin family, erudite scholars, fluent in many languages, including Sanskrit, and also, of course, Bengali and Urdu and whatever else was being. But they were they were the prime ministers, really, of the Muslim king, Nawab Hussain Shah. But they had become enlivened by their association with Lord Chaitanya. They were older now, and they wanted to become fully dedicated to Lord Chaitanya. So they left the service of the king, and they divided their wealth, and they were helping with tax collectors. They were helping advise the king on how to deal with the... You guys have to go? Thanks for coming. It's really been pleasant having you here. I hope you come back again, and the Sunday feasts are good. We usually have like over 150 people here on big kirtans. And you brought Rohit, you got them some books, and I see that they have japa beads. So you're in good hands with Rohit. Hare Krishna, very much nice to meet you. So they divided their wealth. I mean, they could fill they filled a whole boat up with golden coins. Right? That's how wealthy they were. But they were becoming sannyasis. And so they were instructed, and they followed this rule, that they took half of the wealth that they had, and they distributed it in charity to Brahmins and Vaishnavas to do holy work. They took 25%, and they distributed it to family members. And the remaining 25% they kept in case of emergency. And there was an emergency, because Rupa Goswami had been able to escape, but Sanatana Goswami was even more important to the king. And when he called in sick and said, I don't want to do my duties for you anymore, the king had him arrested. and said, I'm not going to let you escape like your wicked brother, and you put him in a jail cell. And the 25% of the wealth that Rupa Goswami had deposited with the grocer in order to, save if there was any emergency, was used to bribe the jailer so that he would let Sanatana Goswami go and escape to go be with Lord Chaitanya. So Srila Prabhupada says we should follow that example, that we should give 50% of our income to, I know, yes, your eyes are getting big. Personally, I don't know very many devotees who have ever actually done it. I haven't. I do know one devotee, godbrother. His name was, I believe, Dayanidhi. Not our Dayanidhi here in the ISKCON Silicon Valley, but another devotee from Southern California. And sometime in the 70s, he got a job I think in the accounting department of IBM, which was a very big and established company, and they had good benefits and everything. And he was a family man. Job in IBM, and Srila Prabhupada told him, that's fine, earn a living, have a job in IBM, take care of your family, but use 50% of your income for supporting the Hare Krishna movement and its activities. And you will never experience any want, you'll never go hungry, you'll never feel like you don't have enough wealth or anything like that. And this devotee told me that he strictly followed that he took 50% of his wealth, of his earnings, and used, because Prabhupada had told him that was Prabhupada's direct order. And he said, sure enough, he always had enough, was able to buy a home, was able to educate his children, and was able to retire in comfort, that much money. I know Christian churches, they normally ask for tithing, 10%. But Srila Prabhupada said, using the example of, but Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they were taking sannyas. But Srila Prabhupada says, following their example, we should divide our wealth this way. We should 10% for preaching and charity to Krishna conscious activities, and 25% for our family, and 25% savings for emergencies. Excuse me. So, I wanted to read today from the Caitanya Caritamrta. Is that all right? Any other comments or questions before we start reading Caitanya Caritamrta? Madhya Lila, Volume 7. Lord Chaitanya travels. What's that? You have to leave? Oh, I'm sorry to miss you. Thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. Chapter 7. The Lord's Tour of South India. Let's start at text 91. Pratakale snana kori korila gamonna bhakta gane bidai dila kori alingana. The next morning at bath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started on his South Indian tour. He bade farewell to the devotees by embracing them. Murchita Hanashabe Bhumite Porila Tanha Shaba Pane Prabhu Chahila. Although they all fell to the ground unconscious, the Lord did not turn to see them, but proceeded onward. Vichede Vyakula Prabhu Chalila Dukhihana Pache Krishna Dasa Jaya Jala Patra Lana In separation, the Lord became very much perturbed and walked on unhappily. His servant Krishnadas, who was carrying his water pot, followed behind. Bhakta Gana Upavasi Tahani Rahila Aradine Dukhi Hana Nilachale Aila. All the devotees remained there and fasted, and the next day they all unhappily returned to Jagannath Puri. Mata Singha Praya Prabhu Korila Gamana Prema Beshe Jaya Kori Nama Kirtana. Almost like a mad lion, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on his tour, filled with ecstatic love and performing Sankirtan, chanting Krishna's names as follows. Please chant after me. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Raksha Mam. Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Raksham. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahi Mam. Translation. The Lord chanted Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. That is, O Lord Krishna, please protect me and maintain me. He also chanted Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahi. Oh, that is, O Lord Rama, descendant of King Raghu, please protect me. O Krishna, O Keshava, killer of the Keshi demon, please maintain me. E shloka paripate chalila gora hari lokadeki pate kahe bala hari hari. Chanting this verse, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, known as Gaurahari, went on his way. As soon as he saw someone, he would request him to chant, Hari Hari. She loka prema mata hana bale hari. Prabhura pache sange jaya darshana satrishna. Whoever heard Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chant Hari Hari also chanted the holy name of Lord Hari and Krishna. In this way, they all followed the Lord, very eager to see him. Katakshane Rahi Prabhu, Tare Alingya, Vidaya Korilo Tare Shakti Sanchariya. After some time, the Lord would embrace these people and bid them to return home, having invested each of them with spiritual potency. Purport. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that this spiritual potency is the essence of the pleasure potency and the knowledge potency. By these two potencies, one is empowered with devotional service. Lord Krishna himself, or his representative, unalloyed devotee, can mercifully bestow these combined potencies upon any man. Being thus endowed with such potencies, one can become an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. Anyone favored by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was empowered with this bhakti shakti. Lord's followers were able to preach Krishna consciousness by divine grace. In our lifetime, we saw how Srila Prabhupada, empowered by Bhakti Shakti, was able to make Westerners who didn't know anything about Vedic culture or anything, but them into devotees. There will be a kids' presentation at 9:50. Okay, I didn't realize, so we'll try to read faster, because I had a lot that I was going to cover, but... Each of these empowered persons would return to his own village, always chanting the holy name of Krishna and sometimes laughing, crying, and dancing. Such an empowered person would request everyone and anyone, whomever he saw, to chant the holy name of Krishna. In this way, all the villagers would also become devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: in order to become an empowered preacher, one must be favored by Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu or his devotee, the spiritual master. One must also request everyone to chant the Mahamantra. In this way, such a person can convert others to Vaishnavism, showing them how to become pure devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How many people know what the purpose of ISKCON of Silicon Valley is? The mission statement. Does anyone know? Nobody here knows. Okay. Well, then we should discuss that. When sometime, it must have been 13 or 14 years ago, we were still back at the old Union, before we even got to Bascom Avenue, at the old Union storefront. The board of directors met, and Vaishesika said, you know, we need a mission statement. And he told us it should be something that anyone can remember, that if they had a gun to your head, you could say what the mission statement was. It can't be too complicated, but it has to contain the principles of why we are doing this. What are we doing at ISV? What's it for? What's our purpose? And we worked on it, and we came up with a mission statement, and communicating that to each other, that this is our mission and purpose, so we can remember what the purpose is here. And the mission was to serve all souls by distributing the holy names of Krishna. Yeah, you can say it with the microphone too.
To serve all souls by distributing the holy name of Krishna.
Jai. So I think we succeeded in getting it something short and easy to remember, and now that you know it, I'm sure you remember it, and tell your friends also that we have a purpose, a mission statement in ISV to serve all souls by distributing the holy names of Krishna. And we should communicate that so that everyone knows the purpose. And, the methods for how we distribute, we do book distribution, whether we do Harinam Sankirtan, whether we have Sunday feast programs or Saturday morning programs, or all those things can be arranged and adjusted according to what's working and what's not working. Of course, we know from Srila Prabhupada that book distribution works, and that this is an order from Srila Prabhupada, the method to book distribution and Harinam Sankirtan. Although in India, when we were doing Harinam Sankirtan in Mumbai, I think, Bombay back then, Srila Prabhupada had to stop because it wasn't having a good public reaction. People, we were all over the world doing Harinam Sankirtan every day in the public streets. But when we got to India in 1970 or so, we made a little sensation, but people started making fun of it. That, why are these, I guess they had already seen people do chanting in the streets, and it wasn't a novelty for them. It was maybe funny to see Western boys and girls with, I think I read one book where they made fun that the devotees were wearing sneakers, and that seemed funny that they should wear sneakers while they were dancing and chanting in the street. But Prabhupada stopped it. It wasn't getting a good reaction, and he increased the life membership program instead and added a more. But at any rate, methods may be different. Of course, we're going to keep Harinama. Of course, we're going to keep book distribution. Of course, we're going to keep temple worship. And we're going to keep initiations and training devotees up to be mature devotees, and hopefully to be the next generation of spiritual masters, actually. But the whole thing can be encapsulated in to serve all souls by distributing the holy names of Krishna. In this way, as empowered men went from one village to another, all the people of South India became devotees. Just like all the people of the Bay Area will become devotees. Don't think it's not possible. Thus many hundreds of people became Vaishnavas when they passed the Lord on the way and were embraced by him. In whatever village Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu stayed to accept alms, many people came to see him. By the mercy of the Supreme Lord, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, all these persons became first-class devotees. Later they became teachers or spiritual masters and liberated the entire world. In this way, the Lord went to the extreme southern part of India and he converted all the provinces to Vaishnavism. Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu did not manifest his spiritual potencies at Navadvip, but he did manifest in South India and liberated all the people there. Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's empowering of others can be understood by one who is actually a devotee of the Lord and who has received his mercy. If one does not believe in the uncommon transcendental pastimes of the Lord, he is vanquished, both in this world and the next. Stated about the beginning of the Lord's tour should also be understood to hold for as long as the Lord toured South India. When Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to the holy place known as Kurmakshetra, he saw the deity and offered prayers and obeisances. Did I say Kurmasthana? Kurmakshetra. Okay, in the purport it's known as Kurmasthana. I'm going to skip the purport because we have a child's presentation in a few minutes. While at this place, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was in his usual ecstasy of love of Godhead and was laughing, crying, dancing, and everyone who saw him was astonished. After hearing all these wonderful occurrences, everyone came to see him there. When they all saw the beauty of the Lord and his ecstatic condition, they were all struck with wonder. Just by seeing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone became a devotee. They began to chant Krishna and Hari and all the holy names. They were all merged in great ecstasy of love, and they began to dance, raising their arms. Always hearing them chant the holy names of Lord Krishna, the residents of all the other villages also became Vaishnavas. By hearing the holy name of Krishna, the entire country became Vaishnava. It was as if the nectar of the holy name of Krishna overflooded the entire country. After some time, when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his external consciousness, a priest of Lord Korma deity gave him various offerings. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mode of preaching had already been explained, and I shall not repeat the explanation. In whichever village the Lord entered was the same. In one village there was a Vedic Brahmana named Korma. He invited Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home with great respect and devotion. This Brahmana brought Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home, washed his lotus feet, and with his family members drank that water. With great affection and respect, that Korma Brahmana made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eat all kinds of food. After that, the remnants were shared by all the members of the family. The Brahmana then began to pray, "O my Lord, your lotus feet are meditated upon by Lord Brahma, and those very lotus feet have come into my home. My dear Lord, there is no limit to my great fortune. It cannot be described. Today my family, birth, and riches have all been glorified." The Brahmana begged Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my dear Lord, kindly show me favor and let me go with you. I can no longer tolerate the waves of misery caused by materialistic life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Don't speak like that again. Better to remain at home and chant the holy name of Krishna always." Purport. It is not advisable in this age of Kali to leave one's family suddenly, for people are not trained as proper brahmacharis and grihastas. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised the Brahmana not to be too eager to give up family life. It would be better to his family and try to become purified by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra regularly under the direction of a spiritual master. This is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If this principle is followed by everyone, there is no need to accept sannyas. In the next verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises everyone to become a householder by offenselessly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and teaching the same principle to everyone he meets. Text 128. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amar agyai guru hana tara edesh. This is a very famous verse. A purport. This is the sublime mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we want a mission statement for the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Sri Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Many people come and inquire whether they have to give up family life to join the society, but that is not our mission. One can remain comfortably in his residence. We simply request everyone to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one is a little literate and can read Bhagavad Gita as it is and Srimad Bhagavatam, much the better. These works are now available in an English translation and are done very authoritatively to appeal to all classes of men. Instead of living engrossed in material activities, people throughout the world should take advantage of this movement and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra at home with families. One should also refrain from sinful activities, illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. Out of these 4 items, illicit sex is very sinful. Every person must get married. Every woman especially must get married. If the women outnumber the men, some men can accept more than one wife. We don't do that in the United States. In fact, it's illegal. In that way, there will be no prostitution in society. If men can marry more than one wife, illicit sex will be stopped. One can also produce many nice preparations to offer Krishna, grain, fruit, flowers, and milk. Why should one indulge in unnecessary meat eating and maintain horrible slaughterhouses? What is the use of smoking and drinking tea and coffee? People are already intoxicated by material enjoyment, and if they indulge in further intoxication, what chance is there for self-realization? Similarly, one should not partake in gambling and unnecessarily agitate the mind. The real goal of human life is to attain a spiritual platform and return to Godhead. That is the summum bonum of spiritual realization. The Krishna consciousness movement is trying to elevate human society to the perfection of life by pursuing the method described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his advice to the Brahmana Kurma. That is, one should stay at home, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and preach the instructions of Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have now, I've gone a little over time, we have a presentation by children, I'm told. Are they ready? Just one, Haribol. So Hare Krishna.